the off. So it is always, but there are so many synonyms based on the regional level. People used to call in different names. So like contagious pustular dermatitis or contagious ecthyma, contagious pustular stomatitis, malignant aphthia or sore mouth, scabby mouth, like that. So it is a viral disease which primarily affects the skin around the mouth, udder and coronate, and is prevalent in all countries where sheep and goats are raised. Almost we could able to see these incidents as well as prevalence of disease in every country. So, but the impact may be varying with respect to the climatic condition, or otherwise the endemic status may be varying with the country. In addition to sheep and goats and related species, the potential, this virus is having the potential to infect human beings also. So that means humans are also very much susceptible to infection through contact with infected animals or fomites. So that's the reasons whenever we have chance to treat those animals, we have to wear gloves in view of protecting ourselves from the virus contraction. So etiology, so it is a highly contagious zoonotic viral disease that affect the ruminants, mainly sheep and goats. So the skin lesions are painful. When you touch the skin lesions, the animal is to evince the pain, often occur on mouth, muscle region, where they cause anorexia or starvations. So because of pain, the animal could not able to eat. So then it is classified under parapox virus. Its infectivity is retained in dried scab for long period at cool temperature. So that there is a record of about 23 years at cool temperatures. Even the dried scab used to maintain the virus in the environment. So it means, so once the environment is contaminated, then the climatic condition is favorable, like Kodaikanal, Ooty, or wherever the high altitude conditions, the virus is to survive in the scab for a long time, whereby it pave the way for contraction with the susceptible animal whenever they go for grazing. The recommended disinfectants, actually, these viruses are susceptible to iodophos as well as 2% formalin, but most the preparatory preparations are adequate, provided surface are clean before applications. So there are certain preparatory preparations which are also adequate to inactivate these viruses, but the bioburden, otherwise the environmental condition has to be reduced. So after reducing the bioburden level, if you apply these preparatory preparations, it may be of much effective. So our virus, as I told, it is occurring primarily in sheep and goats as contagious pustular dermatitis. The human beings usually contract this disorder through direct contact with infected sheep and goats or with fomites carrying the ORF virus. It causes purulent appearing papule locally and generally no systemic symptoms. So infected locations can include finger, hand, arm, face. That means this is a zoonotic potentials. I'm talking about human infections. The papule may persist for 7 to 10 weeks and spontaneously resolve. Though it is self-limiting, but still there is a chance to contract the pathogen from the small ruminants. Disease primarily affects animals under 1 year old, normally the susceptible animal if you see. So among the small ruminants, the young lambs, otherwise young kids, are more susceptible in 2 peaks. The first in spring, shortly after lamping, especially you can expect the incidence after lamping, and again in 3 to 4 months old. Almost these viruses are having the trophisms towards young animals. Older animals also have a chance to get affected, but the condition may occur at any time of the year. So that means the incidence may not much compared to the young animals. The spread is through direct contact with the infected animals. Obviously, when the stock density is getting increased, there is a chance to get the close proximity between affected and susceptible animals, then virus will be contacted very easily, or the virus contaminated fomites. Whenever the animal goes for grazing, so there is a chance to have a scab from the infected animals, they used to contract the virus, otherwise the even fomites. The infection will establish only at sites where skin is traumatized. So when the skin is getting lacerated wound kind of things. Well, when they go for grazing, usually sheep are having the habits of zerograzing. So when there is a chance to have a laceration because of the short materials, short plants, then easily the virus will be easily contracting the epithelial, especially the epithelial cells. So that means actually growing epithelial cells are very much attracted by this virus. The morbidity usually approaches 100%, but in most outbreak, mortality is negligible. Mostly, even if it happens, it may be due to the starvation, otherwise anorectic conditions, if at all the animal is not treated. So transmission, so the virus in skin lesions and scab is thought to enter the skin cuts, abrasions by direct or by fomites. The virus will be viable in wool about 1 month after the lesions have healed. Even the lesions is healed, then still there is a chance to have a virus. Virus can withstand dry sunlight. Disinfectant especially hypochlorite, alkalis, and iodophores. It can cause infection in human being. So coming to the clinical signs, all face more severe in goats than sheep. So the lesions on udder may result in abandonment of offsprings. That means the offsprings will not be allowed to get along with the animals. The foot lesions can cause transient lameness. So then severe generalized infection, especially in boyer and boyer cross goats. So you can expect severe infections. It resolves spontaneously in mortality is very low. Then there is a local erythema, so followed by formation of papules. Once erythema forms, then there will be a formation of papules, which rapidly develop into vesicular. Then vesicular will be turned into the pustular stage that gives rise to the scab formation within a few days. So these are pathological conditions observed with this virus. The removal of the scab at this stage frequently causes hemorrhage of proliferating underlying dermis, which appears as a papillomatous projections. So before complete healing, if we peel off these that means scab, then we can expect hemorrhage from the lesions. As lesions resolves, the scab will become dry or shed within approximately 20 days of infection, leaving no scar. So if you do, we don't peel off, if you leave as such, then there will be a complete healing almost after 4 weeks. Natural case of the proliferation often gives rise to the wart-like outgrowths, which may go on to produce extensive cauliflower-like growth that can persist for long period. Generally, if you see the incubation period is about 3 to 7 days. So there is a single or few skin lesions. Usually you would be able to see the lesions or the clinical signs around the muscle region most of the times. Then in humans, the initial lesion is very small, firm red to blue papule at the site of penetration, most often a finger, hand, or other exposed parts of the body. Wherever the virus is contracted by the human beings, you will able to see the blue papule development. The papule develop into hemorrhagic pustules or bullae, which may contain central crust and bleeds easily, as it happens with the animals. So then goat lesions develop into a nodule, which may be fluids and is covered with a crust, mild fever, mild lymphadenopathy, and it is usually self-limiting. Then, as usual, the papule, pustule, scab covering ulceration granulations, inflammatory lesions begin at oral mucocutaneous junction. Usually, in the mucocutaneous junctions, oral cavity you will be able to see. Then from there, it will be spreading to oral cavity and muscle region. So there is a next one is malignant forms. Usually, the here the malignant form, the alimentary tract is affected. In the goats, if you see the lesions, then multifocal lesions occurred on head, neck, thorax, and flank region. So this is the typical symptoms observed at field conditions of almost we are experiencing these kind of incidents, otherwise the off incidents, even at high altitude also. So then what we used to do, we actually base this is obvious clinical signs. By seeing the lesions itself, we could able to suspect this is due to off only. But even then, we used to collect this wart, which will be used for autogenous vaccine. But though the live attenuated vaccine is of very much useful, but sometimes if you want to reduce the incidence, even this autogenous vaccine can also be considered by collecting this scab. So this is other conditions being observed in affected animals. If you see the SEQUELAE, so that means infection may also involve the thigh region, axilla, pole, genitalia, lower limbs, and coronate. So even in coronate, the frequently taking the form of verrucous masses, which are easily abraded and prone to hemorrhage. Such lesions around the coronate sometimes referred to as the strawberry foot rot, which may be exacerbated by the infection of the dermatophilus congolensis. If there is a mixed infection, that means dermatophilus congolensis. So then the lesions will be looking like strawberry foot rot conditions. The venereal forms, another form, where you could be able to see vulva on the skin, the vaginal mucosa junction, and at the peripheral of orifice also. At both sides, the lesions show a tendency to spread and form a shallow ulcers, which may become infected by the Fusobacterium necrosporum, giving a flow of necrotic tissues to the ulcer. So in venereal forms, you can expect the same lesions either on the vulval regions around the vulva and the skin, including skin, then vaginal mucosa junctions, and at the peripheral orifice. The affected rams rapidly become reluctant to mate. Usually, when the peripheral orifice is getting affected, usually ram will be reluctant to mate, and the sequel can be disruption of the breeding with a consequent prolonged lamping. The lamping will be delayed. So diagnosis normally by clinical signs, obvious clinical signs could be of enough to have a diagnostic aspect. That means to have a diagnostic aspect. But even if you want to confirm that whether it is or for CPD virus or virus, you can able to collect this scab from animals, which should be triturated. Then go for filtrations with the 0.2 micron. So filters. So that filtrate can be used for identification of viruses by using electron microscope. Usually, we used to do when we were studying our postgraduate. We used to do this kind of study. Otherwise, this kind of informations with our electron microscope available to our institute. So, but this cannot distinguish off from the other part. But still, there is a confusion whether it is perfectly of our virus or other paraparasite. But based on we have to correlate with the clinical signs. So otherwise, nowadays the molecular diagnosis will be of useful. So whereby you can able to target the disordered regions by using established primers. Otherwise, the histopathology can also be helpful, but PCR as well as electron microscopic conditions and obvious clinical signs will be of more than enough to diagnose these conditions. Control and preventions. First, we have to think of applying the emollient preparations containing the broad spectrum antibiotics. So, certain cases, especially on the scab or leaves of lambs, then quarantine measures. So, since the scab is having the potential to spread the virus very quickly to the other stock, so better to isolate. Otherwise, the segregations or whenever we procure animal from exotic places like other countries in view of improving our breeding policy, so then that animal has to be quarantined. Then horse vegetation should be removed from hardship. So because if you remove the horse vegetation, then you can able to reduce the incidence of lacerated wound and the possibility of creating the lacerated wound on animals. Then isolation of infected animals can prevent the spread. Antibiotics, usually the broad spectrum antibiotics can be of useful in your shortening the course of disease by limiting the secondary bacterial infections. So whenever the virus is there, actually general fact is there, when the virus infection is there, obviously it pave the way for providing conducive environment for opportunity pathogens, especially bacteria. In view of arresting the secondary bacterial infections, always we are considering broad spectrum antibiotics. So otherwise, use of live vaccines. Actually, there are attenuated live vaccines available against this disease. So though we used to encounter these diseases as sporadic or otherwise low endemic level, otherwise even less follow endemic level. So this vaccine is available, which could be employed through, that means it could be administered through thigh or behind the elbow or on the caudal fold, depends upon the animals. Otherwise, whether it is of you or otherwise lambs or otherwise ram, something like that. So based on which you have to choose the best route of administration. So usually they used to produce the cell-mediated immunity. So usually pox viruses. So usually they used to target the cell-mediated immunity rather than depend the humoral immunity. So you should be vaccinated behind the elbow so at 6 to 8 weeks before lamping. So in view of increasing the immunity, whereby you can able to improve the immunity to the offsprings. If you want to really improve the immunity level of offsprings, better to vaccinate the dam. So by at least 1 or 2 months before. There is a concept being employed in almost all animals. So the same thing is being employed here also. If vaccination during an outbreak is considered necessary, and the commercial vaccine is not available, suppose there is no commercial vaccine available. So there are certain countries where they may not have the provision to have a better vaccines. In such circumstances, in view of reducing the incidence of the disease, so you can go for autogenous vaccines. Autogenous vaccine can be prepared and used in flocks subject to national, but only thing you have to get approval from the National Regulatory Authority if at all you want to go for mass vaccination, especially at flock level. So by using any autogenous vaccine. So preventions. The first vaccine for contagious ecthyma was developed at Texas Agricultural Experimental Station at Arizona at Texas in 1930s. Then they vaccinated sheep. They found that the vaccinated sheep recovered faster disease. There will be reduced the damage caused by the disease. Then the scab formations after vaccination is desirable. Actually, scab formations after vaccination is desirable because it is an indirect indication of successful vaccination. The major analog protein of that means ORF virus can induce strong immune responses. As a major immunogenic protein, ORF virus 011 protein can induce a strong antibody response by stimulating lymphocytes derived from draining lymph nodes. Further, so the ORF V, that means ORF virus 059 protein has also significant potential in subunit vaccine development against antigenically identical ORF viral strains. It appears to be responsible for inducing post-neutralizing antibodies and plays an important role in the virus cycle. So this ORF V011 is playing major role by inducing stimulating lymphocytes. So whereas this protein is playing major role with neutralizing antibodies.